The Ratcatcher. A very long time ago in the town of Hamel, in Germany, was invaded by a band of rats like which had never been seen before or will ever be seen again. They were great black creatures that ran boldly in broad daylight through the streets, and swarmed so all over the houses, the people at last could not put their hand or foot down anywhere without touching one. While dressing in the morning, they found them in their breeches and petticoats, in their pockets and in their boots, and when they wanted a morsel to eat, the voracious horde had swept away everything from cellar to garret. The night was even worse. As soon as the lights were out, these untiring nibblers set to work. And everywhere, in the ceilings and the floors, in the cupboards and the doors, there was a chase and a rummage, and so furious was the noise of gimlets, pincers, and saws that a deaf man could have rested for 1 hour altogether. Neither cats, nor dogs, nor poisons, nor traps, nor prayers, nor candles burnt to all the saints. Nothing would do anything. The more they killed, the more they came, and the inhabitants of Hamel began to go to the dogs. Not that they were of much use either. When one Friday there arrived in town a man with a queer face who played the bagpipes and sang this refrain. Que vivra vera la voila le prenoir des rats. He was a great gawky fellow, dry and bronzed with a crooked nose, a long rat-tail mustache, and 2 yellow, piercing eyes, under a large felt hat set off by a scarlet cock's feather. He was dressed in a green jacket with a leather belt and red breeches, and on his feet were sandals fastened by thongs passed around his legs in the gypsy fashion. That is how he may be seen to this day, painted on a window of the cathedral of Hamel. He stopped on the great marketplace before the town hall, and turned his back on the church, and went on with his music, singing, Who lives shall see, this is he, the Ratcatcher. The town council had just assembled to consider once more the plague of Egypt, from which no one could save the town. The stranger sent word to the councillors that, if they would make it worth his while, he would rid them of all their rats before night, down to the very last. Then he's a sorcerer, cried the citizens in one voice. We must beware of him. The town councillor, who was considered clever, reassured them. He said, Sorcerer or no, if this bagpiper speaks the truth, it is he who sent us this horrible vermin that he wants to rid us for of money today. Well, we must learn to catch the devil in his own snares. You leave it to me. Leave it to the town chancellor, said the citizens in one voice. And the stranger was brought before them. Before night, said he, I shall have dispatched all the rats in Hamel, if you will but pay me a gross a head. A gross a head? Cried the citizens. But that will come to millions of florins. The town councillor simply shrugged his shoulders and said to the stranger, A bargain, to work. The rats will be paid at 1 gross a head, as you ask. The bagpiper announced that he would operate that very evening when the moon rose. He added that the inhabitants should at that hour leave the streets free, and content themselves with looking out their windows at what was passing, and then it would be a pleasant spectacle. When the people of the Hamel heard of the bargain, they too exclaimed, "A gross a head? But this will cost us a deal of money." "Leave it to the town councillor," said the town council with a malicious air. And the good people of Hamel repeated with their councillors, "Leave it to the town councillor." Towards 9 at night, the bagpiper appeared on the marketplace. He turned, as at first, his back to the church. And the moment the moons ran on the horizon, "Trarira Trevi," the bagpipe sounded. It was first a slow, caressing sound, then more and more lively and urgent, and so sonorous and piercing that it penetrated as far as the farthest alleys and retreats of the town. Soon, from the bottom of the cellars to the top of the garrets, from all under the furniture, from all the nooks and corners of houses, out came the rats, searched for the door, fling themselves into the street, and trip, trip, trip began to run and file towards the front of Town Hall, so squeezed together that they covered the pavement like a wave of flooded torrent. When the square was quite full, the piper faced about, and, still playing briskly, turned towards the river that runs at the foot of the walls of Hamel. Arrived there, he turned around. The rats were following. "Hop, hop," he cried, pointing with his finger to the middle of the stream, where the water whirled and was drawn down as if through a funnel. And hop, hop, without hesitation, the rats took the leap, and swam straight into the tunnel, plunging in head foremost, and disappeared. The plunging continued thus without ceasing until midnight. At last, dragging himself with difficulty, came a big rat, white with age, and stopped on the bank. It was the king of the band. "Are they all there, friend Blanchette?" asked the piper. "They're all there," replied friend Blanchette. "And how many were there?" 990,999. "Well reckoned?" "Well reckoned." "Then go and join them, O sire, and au revoir." Then the old white rat sprang in his turn into the river, and swam into the whirlpool, and disappeared. When the piper had thus concluded his business, he went to bed at his inn. For the first time during 3 months, the people of Hamel slept quietly through the night. The next morning at 9 o'clock, the bagpiper repaired to the town hall, where the town council awaited him. "All your rats took a jump into the river yesterday," he said to the councillors, "and I guarantee that not one of them comes back. There were 999,999 at one gross a head. Reckon." "Let us reckon the heads first. 1 gross a head is 1 head of the gross. Where are the heads?" The Ratcatcher did not expect this treacherous stroke. He paled with anger, and his eyes flashed fire. "The heads!" he cried. "If you care about them, you can go and find them in the river." "So," replied the town councillor, "you refuse to hold to the terms of your agreement. We ourselves could refuse you all payment, but you have been of use to us, and we will not let you go without recompense." And he offered him 50 crowns. "Keep your recompense for yourself," replied the Ratcatcher proudly. "If you do not pay me, I will be paid by your heirs." Thereupon he pulled his hat down over his eyes and went hastily out of the hall, and left the town without speaking to a soul. When the Hamel people heard how the affair had ended, they rubbed their hands, and with no more scruple than their own town councillor, they laughed over the Ratcatcher, who, they said, was caught in his own trap. But what made them laugh above all was his threat of getting himself paid by their heirs. How they wished they could only have such creditors for the rest of their lives. Next day, which was Sunday, they all went gaily to the church, thinking that after Mass they would at least be able to eat something good that all the rats had not tasted before them. They never suspected the terrible surprise that awaited them on their return home. No children anywhere. They had all disappeared. "Our children! Where are our poor children?" was the cry that was soon heard in all the streets. Then through the east door of the town came 3 little boys who cried and wept. And this is what they told.
While the parents were at church, a wonderful music had resounded. Soon all the boys and all the little girls that had been left at home had gone out, attracted by the music sounds, and had rushed to the great marketplace. There they found the Ratcatcher playing his bagpipes at the same spot as the evening before. Then the stranger had begun to walk quickly, and they followed, singing and running and dancing about to the music, as far as the foot of the mountain which one sees entering Hamel. At their approach the mountain had opened a little, and the bagpiper had gone in with them, after which it had closed again. Only us 3 little ones who were told the adventure remained outside as if by a miracle. One was bandy-legged and could not run fast enough, and the other, who had left the house in haste, 1 foot shod and the other bare, had hurt himself against a big stone and could not walk without difficulty. The third had arrived in time, but when hurrying to go in with the others, had struck so violently against the wall of the mountain that he fell backwards at the moment it closed upon his comrades.
At this story, the parents redoubled their lamentations. They ran with pikes and mattocks to the mountain and searched till evening to find the opening by which their children had disappeared, without being able to find it. At last, the night following, they returned desolate to Hamel. But the most unhappy of all was the town councillor, for he lost 3 little boys and 2 pretty little girls. And to crown all, the people of Hamel overwhelmed him with reproaches, forgetting that the evening before they had all agreed with him. And what had become of all these unfortunate children? The parents had hoped they were not all dead, and that the Ratcatcher, who certainly must have come out of the mountain, would have taken them with him to his country. That is why for several years they sent in search of them to different countries. But no one came on a trace of the poor little ones. It was not till much later that anything was heard of them. About 150 years after the events, when there was no longer one left of the fathers, mothers, brothers, or sisters of that day, there arrived one evening in Hamel some merchants of Bremen, returning from the east, who asked to speak to the citizens. They told that they, in crossing Hungary, had sojourned in a mountainous country called Transylvania, where the inhabitants only spoke German. While all of them, nothing was spoken but Hungarian. These people also declared that they came from Germany, but they did not know how they chanced to be in this strange country. Now, said the merchants of Bremen, these Germans could not be any other than the descendants of the lost children of Hamel. The people in Hamel did not doubt it, and since that day they regard it as certain that the Transylvanians of Hungary are their countryfolk. whose ancestors as children were brought there by the Ratcatcher. There are more difficult things to believe than that.